When we talk about new employees, one of the things that we have to talk about is the paperwork, right? So there is a lot of paperwork involved with new employee setup. And if you go to our website, if you go to papertrails.com, you can click on the resources tab and then come down to new employee setup. In here, we do have a quick video tutorial that goes down at the bottom here. This shows you how to set up a new employee. It's a lot of the stuff we're going to go over today, but if you ever have questions, you can come down here to the bottom as well, watch this video. All of the forms and paperwork that you may need are here. So you can download the new hire paperwork. This is our new employee setup forms. There's a lot of information in here about what you need for a new employee, right? What forms you need, W-4s, I-9s, things like that. We have an employee setup document that you're welcome to use. It's a little bit easier. It's just an easy form to fill out, ask for employee information. And then we also have a direct deposit information as well down here. And we have some information to show you how employees can change their direct deposits as well. So that's an option if they want to. That in paperwork is really good. Again, coming back here, we have information on the W-4. So there's links to the W-4 forms. As I said, the W-4 has changed last year. So pretty much for a W-4 now, all you have to do is fill out the top part, step 1, right? Only have to fill out steps 2, 3, 4 if you have special situations. I would say 98% of employees can literally fill out name, address, social security number, and whether they're single, married, or head of household. That's how the new W-4 is designed. They intend it to be easier. I will tell you that it confuses people more than it ever has before. But really, like I said, 98% of employees, all they have to do is use the single, married, or head of household, okay? Coming back over here, we talked about the I-9, which is an employment verification form. You are required to fill out an I-9 form for every new employee. This form verifies that they're eligible to work in the United States. We do not need this form, but you do need to keep this form on file in their employee file if you ever go through an I-9 audit. If you have over 100 employees, you'll also need to use E-Verify. We have integrations with E-Verify, certainly something to look at, and that's another option. So once you've got all your paperwork put together, then you can go ahead and get into isolved. And that's really what we talk about today is how do we set up a new employee? How do we manage employees once they're set up? I really encourage you to go to the quick hire screen. So once you get logged into isolved, employee management, quick hire, you can also go to the new hire wizard. The new hire wizard is the exact same information as on the quick hire, except the new hire wizard is multiple steps. So you're going to see it basically break down step by step each section of this. So we will go ahead and we're going to add an employee. Hire date is always very important, right? So what day did they actually start working? It's not necessarily the date you set them up in the system, for sure. Hire date drives a lot of things like benefits. That's a big one. But it also could come into play if you have questions about unemployment or workers' comp audits, things like that. So it's always important to have an accurate hire date in the system. The employee number will automatically generate. You don't have to worry about that. And if you want to set up employment categories, which we encourage you to do, use full-time, part-time categories. Those categories, again, are important for benefits enrollment, timekeeping, time off, things like that. So always make sure you're choosing the right employment category when you're looking to hire someone. I'm going to put this person as part-time. If you're using timekeeping, you can do a time clock ID. We're not going to do that today. And always include them in a new hire report. We send those off to the state on your behalf, so that will happen on for you as well. Let's go ahead and set a social up, right? I'm going to put a social in here, fake one. This is my demo company, and we will go ahead and put their information in. Self-service email is always important so that when they get activated, they're going to get signed up for my HR stuff. Again, they can go in, they're going to get an email to activate their account, and I'll just do a quick email there. Marital status is not required, but it's certainly optional if you want to report on that. And we'll just fill in their address. When you put the zip code in and tab through, it's automatically going to put in their city and state. So don't have to worry about that. Phone numbers are generally optional. Birthdays and genders are definitely more important, especially when you're dealing with with benefits, time off requests, things like that. The state does require us to file what gender the employee is when we file the taxes for unemployment. So that's important. That will almost always be required. If we keep scrolling down, it's going to ask you to work on their salary information. The pay group, most of you are only going to have one pay group. A pay group is a pay schedule, weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, quarterly, whatever that may be. You can choose that. Again, most people are only going to have one. A pay type, whether they're hourly or salary. I would discourage you from working on an auto hourly pay type, but it's an option if you want it. Hourly or salary are the most common. If you're setting up contractors in the system, you would use 1099. So I'm going to set this employee up as an hourly employee. Again, it asks me for my frequency. That should automatically be filled in there. It will ask you your normal hours. Most of the time, this doesn't get adjusted, but you're welcome to put their normal hours in there if you like. And I'm just going to put an hourly rate in there and tab through it. That will automatically fill in their per pay salary based on your normal rates, their estimated annual salary if they were to work that same every time. If you made this a salaried employee, something changes, but you have multiple options. If I came in here and said, I'm going to have them an annual salary of $45,000, and I clicked into the next screen, it's automatically going to update the per pay salary amount. And you'll notice that it did round down slightly because certainly when we start dividing numbers by 26, they don't always work perfectly. You do have the ability to come in here and say, okay, I'd rather it round up, right? I'm going to change that a penny, and that will round it up. So they're going to get a little bit more than that 45,000 kind of thing. You can adjust these amounts any way you like. Certainly hourly salary are the most common ways. If we come to alternate pay rate here, we do have the ability to put in alternate pay rates within the system. They could be named whatever we want. They can be assigned to different departments or job classes. We have lots of options with alternate pay rates. I won't go into that too much, just to let you know that they are there. Let's scroll back up to the top here. We have organization, labor, job categories here. So if you have divisions, locations, departments, different classes or jobs, those can all be chosen and filled in here. So we do have some departments in here. I will just go ahead and put that in there. This will be their default department. That doesn't mean that they can't change their departments if they're working in half and half in 1 week, right? He could work in department 10 for 5 hours, department 20 for 35 hours, and that will be able to be done through the grid. But this will be their default department. Also, many of you do workman's comp, and that is really important to make sure a workers' comp code is assigned to every employee. Make sure you do that because it will mess with your workers' comp reporting and will cause issues with the comp as you go. So if you're doing comp as you go, make sure you have a workers' comp code in there for sure. Again, this is their default comp code. This is not their only comp code. They can have the ability to work in multiple different comp codes if they need to. So coming down, it's going to start asking us about tax location. Payroll taxes are based on where they work. So most of the time, it's going to be one work location for most clients, unless you have locations in different states, and in which case you may have multiple there. This is a demo company. We have one location, so we choose that. Then if we go to our federal filing status, remember, we had single or married. Those are the new W-4 codes, single, married, head of household. You're going to notice single or married filing separately or married filed jointly are also in there. These are for the old W-4. You can use those and still do exemptions, so forth. To make this easier, we're just going to choose the new one. And we don't have to fill in any dependents or other income, again, because on that W-4, we're not going to go below line 1, basically. Coming down here, we have a residence code, and we're going to choose same thing. This is kind of the old style. We're going to have single 0 in this situation for our state tax code. So make sure you get a federal and a state W-4. That's important. And that's all we need for taxes. Lastly, on the quick hire screen, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. We have our direct deposits. From here, you can set up any direct deposit information that you want in any which way you want. There are unlimited number of direct deposits and unlimited different combinations. So you can do this any way you want. I will show you how to do just kind of two basic ones. One is a single direct deposit, which is probably what 90% of employees that do payroll with us do. So we're just going to make it as active. Coming across the side, it's going to say, what type of account is this, a checking or a savings? Checking is the most common. Because this is going to be just one direct deposit, everything is going to go in. I'm going to choose the remaining amount on every payroll, and we'll put a routing number from their check. Remember, you should get a blank check from every employee. And I'm going to go ahead and put an account number in there. and that's all I need to do. If I wanted to add a separate account and say put $50 in a savings account, I could hit add new here. It's going to give me another row. Again, active, we'll do a savings and a frequency. So it's going to ask me what order do I want to do this in? And this comes into effect when you maybe have 2, 3, 4, 5 direct deposits. What order do you want those to go in, right? So this is just one. You can choose either a percentage or an amount, not both. So I could say I want 10% and it grays out my amount field. Or I could say I want $50 and it grays out my percent field, right? I put my routing number in, my account number, and I'm good. So when I run payroll, it's going to take $50 right off the top, and it's going to then do the remaining amount to my checking account. I have one question, says, what if the direct deposit is less than the sequence one amount? So if, for example, if their check was only $48 in this situation, $48 is going to go to this first account. Nothing is going to go to the savings account. So if you have multiple people and they earn less than that first sequence, for example, it's just going to take that first one. And that's, again, why it's important to make sure things are sequenced in the right order when you have multiple in here. So once we've got all this information in, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now my new employee is in there. We're all good to go. That employee can get paid if you have no other adjustments to be done. Things like vacation accruals, leave accruals, those may need to be adjusted. Things like deductions may also need to be added for new employees. Think health insurance, retirement, those kinds of things. We are going to run down the list of what those look like. From a maintenance perspective, we'll get there. You have access to all of this stuff, but we'll go through it and show what the maintenance looks like. Once an employee has been set up, you're not going to use these quick hire screens anymore. You're now going to use the menu. So if we come to employee maintenance, I'm going to just show you the general tab. This just pops up. It says, are you sure you want to navigate away? And hit yes. So I'm going to go to my general tab here. It's going to stick on that employee I just added, which is nice. This is where you come in and edit basically their contact information, right? So all this basic information is in here. You're welcome to come in here and put this in here. Say I forgot to put his middle initial in there. I can do that, hit save, right? We're going to talk a little bit about self-service management at the end, but if you need to resend a self-service email to someone, you want to uncheck this box, save, maybe edit their email address because looks like I did spell their email wrong, right? So we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to check the box again and hit save. So that's how I would resend someone a self-service. We're going to go into more self-service stuff in a little bit. Most employers are not going to use a lot of these, but I'm going to just kind of skip down through here. Employment is a screen that some people do use. This talks about if they go from full-time to part-time or come and go if they leave. Won't go through this a whole lot. You're welcome to come look at your employees on this, but definitely a screen that comes in handy sometimes. Similar to the employment status history, this will show all their history with you. So if they've been terminated and rehired many times, you'll see that history here. We talked about organizations a little bit. So if somebody is in here and works in you need to change their default department, this is where they come to do that. So we're going to put them in Division 1, Department 20, and hit save, right? As we're moving through these fields, I do want to talk a little bit about the navigation at the top. So you can click the little list icon here. This will bring you to an employee list of everybody. And I can come and click on the next employee and it'll bring me right back to my organization screen. You can also use the arrows to tab between employees. So this is a little bit of a navigation feature. I can also search, right? So if I want to search for an employee, it'll bring up my employee and I'm back to my John Smith employee. That's general employee maintenance. The meat of where most people spend their time is in this employee pay category, okay? So let's come to the salary screen. This is where you're going to add, edit, adjust pay rates. That pay rate is always in there. I would always encourage you to add a new pay rate, right? Create the history. So you can set these as a future or a historical change. So you can come in here and say, I'm going to give this person a raise on March 1st. There are reasons in here that you can put in here. We know he's going to get a merit increase on March 1st. And maybe he is going to go from salary to hourly. okay? And when he does that, he's going to go to $25 per hour, okay? Now, when I hit save, I have my history here. So when an employee comes to you and says, hey, when was the last time I got a raise? It's really easy to come to the salary screen and see the last time you adjusted that. The system will let you come and edit this, but if you edit it, the problem is you lose that history. So I always encourage you to keep adding and adding and adding. This is a current change. It'll give you the effective date, so forth. You can do that, but always add new. Don't necessarily edit one. Alternate pay rates. Again, there's many different complexities that have to do with alternate pay rates. Some people set them up based on departments, jobs, functions. Everyone does things a little bit differently. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, just to let you know that alternate pay rates are available in the system. If you have the need for an alternate pay rate, please reach out to us. We'll help you set it up and configure it the best way for you. Tax information. So say an employee comes back to you and says they want to change their W-4 information. This is very similar to the quick hire screen, right? So say all of a sudden John got married. We can come in here and we're going to do married and save that, right? We're going to, same thing with Maine. We're going to go married, and they had a kid. We're going to do married 1, right? So now you've changed their tax information. I strongly encourage you, do not touch this tax exemption box, please. This tax exemption box is designed for if you're hiring J1 employees or H2B employees, folks that have exemptions from specific taxes. 99.9% of you will never need that. If you do have J1 or H2B or clergy employees, those are other examples when you may have an exemption from taxes. Please talk to us and we will help you with that. It will definitely screw up your taxes. Your employees' taxes will lead to a lot of unintended consequences. So please stay away from that tax exemption box. I wish I could turn it off, but I can't. If you need to use that, please contact us. Another question, can employees withhold additional money for state and federal with the new W-4? Yes, you can. You'll see there's additional box here. So if they wanted to be married filed jointly and do 10 additional dollars, they can do that. Same thing here, 10 additional dollars on that and hit save. And that will do they're married plus $10, for example. So moving on from taxes, really quickly, there are other tabs here at the top. Again, other states and additional taxes don't necessarily apply to most of our clients. But if you did have employees that worked in multiple states, that's where you would go for that. Again, specific to specific employers, and we will definitely help you set those up so that you can manage those. Continuing down the list here, we're just going to look at earnings. So earnings are generally fixed and recurring items that may go on a payroll. So think things like a cell phone reimbursement or a vehicle stipend, those types of things that you may have to put on here every pay. That is an earning in the system. So we will definitely help you manage that if you need. We need to set that up. I mean, obviously these are different types of earnings that are set up in here, but the most common ones that we see are certain types of reimbursements, cell phone stipends, things like that, that would be recurring earnings. Deductions, obviously, this is a demo company, there's lots of deductions here, but deductions are pretty straightforward to set up and manage. So all you have to do is come in here, come to medical pre-tax, and put the amount in. So this person's going to have $50 per payroll. You can see every payday is set up as the schedule. We certainly can change that pay schedule. Some folks like to have like the first and second payroll of the month. I prefer that. So there's only 24 deductions instead of 26 deductions. That makes your reconciliation process a lot easier. So certainly we can adjust that schedule however you like. Some people may just say the first payroll of the month, they're going to have this deduction. But once you go ahead and do that, we're going to hit save and manage that. One of the items that we've been seeing a lot recently, especially with COVID outages and things like that, the system can track your arrears balances. So if there's an employee that's out and isn't getting paid, and therefore their deduction isn't getting deducted, obviously, on a schedule, the system can keep track of how much they've missed and automatically catch them up when they start getting paid. If you want to set that up, talk to us. We can manage that as well. Just coming down to 401k, for example, this has a percentage field. So I could put 4% in there. There's also start and stop dates on here. With the start and stop dates, I will warn you, this is one thing that I wish I could change about the system. It deals with pay periods, not pay dates. So if you had a pay date of February 1st, for example, you would actually want to put the start date within the period, which would be the week before. So it's a little bit confusing from that, but the start and stop dates do work. It's just, like I said, everything else in the payroll world works on paid dates. For whatever reason, this one works on paid periods. But editing deductions, you can come in here and edit these at any time. Garnishments. I would encourage everybody, if you have an employee with a garnishment, please send it to us to get set up. There's a lot of complexities with garnishments, especially about sending garnishments via checks and ACH. And we really would prefer you send those to us so we can make sure they're set up correctly. Just send them off to your payroll specialist. We'll get them set up for you, but you can always see them set up here as well. We want you to have visibility to that. The last item we're going to look at in the employee pay menu is our direct deposit screen. This works pretty identical to like you saw in the quick hire, right? You have the ability to come in here and edit, add, delete direct deposits if you want. I will delete our first sequence in here, and now everything is going to go to that checking account. You can again add another one. Say I wanted to have a different one in here. Choose the same idea, and they wanted to go to $75, and we went to a new account, and I hit save. So now on the next payroll, that will go to their new account. And again, you have the ability to add and edit that. Moving down a smidge, we're going to go to this employee benefit screen. What I really want to show here is leave accruals, especially because of main paid leave. In the last year, we've been doing a lot more with leave accruals, and leave accruals do need to be set up and managed appropriately. We can build all of your paid time off policies in the system so that they accrue, earn, carry over, are used, everything appropriately on payroll, but you do have to set it up on the employee. Generally speaking, we have your PTO policies by default added to the employee. You may want to put this on your list to check these to make sure that they're getting added. We do have the ability to update a balance on here. I would encourage you to do that cautiously. We see issues when we update balances, so let's talk about those before you're going to go update a balance. But really, you want to select a plan and hit save. It will show you exactly what their current balance is, what their accrual rates are, things like that. In this situation, I have 2 accruals set up, so you may not have more than one. You may only have one. But if you had a vacation, a sick, personal time, some people have birthdays, some people have different things. Whatever your accrual plans are, we can set those up in the system to be tracked, and the employee does need to be enrolled in the plan to manage that. The other thing I will show you is the accrual balance history screen. See if I can find an employee that has some history. This will show you on every payroll that they've been run. This is demo company, so not a lot of data in here, but it will show you what their starting balance was, what they accrued, what they used, what their balance ended with, what they've accrued year to date, quarter to date. If there was a manual adjustment, remember if I said leave accruals and I come in here and say, yep, okay, he's really at 6 hours, not 4 hours. If there was a manual adjustment, next time I run the payroll, you're going to see a little alert icon here that shows, hey, there was a manual adjustment here, so that you know that history, okay? This is really good for troubleshooting, especially this day and age. We're seeing a lot of PTO questions, so this screen is really good for troubleshooting those kind of things. Further, if you need to update an accrual balance for whatever reason, I would encourage you to come to the accrual history update screen. This shows you, this allows you to update all of the fields, okay? So think about, a lot of plans have a cap, or a total number of hours that can be accrued a year. This lets you update all the fields rather than just the balance. So that is definitely something to think about as well. We're really happy to help you manage these. They can get tricky. Just giving you an overview, letting you kind of know what's here, because again, these kind of things do get a little bit tricky sometimes, but just want to let you know that the functionality is there to help you manage this. And I'm going to just briefly talk about the human resources features. We can put employee contacts in there, so think emergency contacts. If you're using benefits, you can also put benefits contacts in here just for tracking purposes. If you want, you can put prior employment in here. That's an option as well. Certifications, we're using this more and more and more. Think about things like licenses. With our cannabis clients, they're putting their state licenses in here. We can set up reminders, so when something is going to expire, you're automatically getting an email reminder. We're getting custom reporting in here to show when things are expiring as well. So those are different features that you can use on the certifications. Similarly, you can put education in here. skills, training. These are all different things that can be built into the system for tracking purposes, similar to awards, corrective actions. So think if you write somebody up, those are all in here. I really like company assets. So if you are assigning someone a cell phone or a laptop, you can keep track of those. Think keys. Those are nice to keep track of as well. I'll also show you employee documents. So here we can upload anything we need from an employee document perspective. So if you want to have a completely paperless employee file, you can use this to do so. All these HR things do require a little bit of setup from a category perspective. So if you do want to use those, let us know. We can get those set up for you as well. Let's talk about how to terminate an employee, right? We really encourage you to terminate employees as soon as someone leaves, right? This is good for tracking. It's also good for keeping the system clean. Someone can't accidentally get paid if they are not in the system, right? So that's really important to make sure that we're terminating employees. It's also really important for benefits, leave accruals, and an ACA if you're of that size. To terminate an employee, I would discourage you from making them inactive. Do not use the status dropdown. Instead, come up here and go to terminate up in the top menu. It's going to ask you for their termination date. So this person really didn't work out. He started the 18th, we got rid of him on the 21st. There's reasons in here, so we can certainly, I guess I have a good termination reason in there. We put a custom one, as you can see, we can create custom termination reasons on there. You can also mark them as eligible for rehire. You can delete any future absences. You can also choose to inactivate their direct deposits, which we encourage, so that if you do rehire somebody, they are not accidentally getting a direct deposit to an old account. If they're using our benefits plans in the system, it can also show terminations on benefits plans. This termination report is really nice as well as you're looking at this. This will show you if they have garnishments in the system, if they have deductions that you may need to collect, if they have PTO that you want to pay out, you can keep track of those. Remember, we talked about company assets. If you want to get their keys and their laptops and their phone back, this report will show that to you. So this report is really nice to help you finish out that employee's last payroll. Really good information on this. Once you finish this screen, go ahead and hit save. They've been terminated. They're gone. So let's talk a little bit about employee self-service issues. So one of the things that we see a lot with is people forget or they have the wrong email address. You see this is grayed out. In order to change their email address, you want to uncheck the box, save it. We're going to come back in here and we're going to put a new email in there. We're going to enable self-service and hit save. That just fired off a new self-service activation email to the employee. You can also see here their last login date. So if they've logged in before, they can manage that. They also have a user activity report that will show you that as well. In there. I'm going to bump out of the employee management screen for a second, and I'm going to come into employee administration. We have self-service management. This screen is really good to help you manage your company as a whole, okay? So just looking at the account status, you can see Hazel has activated her self-service account. This is the email on the account and the last login date. So this is a really good summary of what's going on here. If we go to enable access, this is going to show us any employees that have an email address who have not been sent the email to activate their account yet. In this situation, it would give you a list, you select them all, and you hit process, and that will do that. Similarly, if someone has been sent an email, but they haven't filled it out yet, you can resend that by going to the inactive screen, selecting all the ones you want to do, and hit process, and that will resend them an activation email. If there's someone that's locked out, that you can come in here and click on whoever's locked out, reactivate their account and hit process. If you want to resend all the emails, you can come sort through here, see what's been sent, and resend those emails. So this self-service management screen is really nice to help with resending account information. Keep in mind, even we cannot see passwords. If an employee has already set their account, but they forgot their password, the best thing for them to do is it's for them to use the password reset feature. We do have this help screen. So we have help cards. So you just go to papertrails.com/help. Here's some information on how do I reset my password, right? Here's step-by-step video. how to reset my password. Here are step-by-step instruction. How do I reset my password? How do I download this to my phone? How do I change my direct deposit? All the types of things that they may need to do most commonly in self-service. So I feel like a lot of times we're all chasing passwords around, but these resources can really help with that. We do have another question about upon termination, it's recommended to run a separate payroll or pay out final payroll on their final payroll. So generally speaking, by law in the state of Maine, you do not have to run a separate payroll when you terminate an employee. 99.99% of the time, you're paying them out on the next normally scheduled payroll. There are some states that require you to pay out within 24 hours or within 7 days, for example. Maine, fortunately, is not one of those. Most traditionally, you pay everything out on the next regularly scheduled payroll. Also, paying out PTO in the state of Maine, you are not required to pay out PTO, although there was a bill introduced in the legislature yesterday that would require that. Still be determined if that goes through and gets passed. We'll definitely give you more information on that if that does happen. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover today from an employee management perspective. I know that's a lot of information in a short period of time, but I hope it was very helpful to you. I'm certainly open to answering any questions that you may have. And you're certainly welcome to put that in the question and answer in the chat. You can raise your hands and I can activate your microphone. We can certainly do it any way you like. Looks like I have another question in the question and answer. Will the self-service help cards be updated for my HR stuff? And when can employees access my HR stuff? Everything is active now for my HR stuff. Luke, we can certainly send you new help cards for that. With the new My HR stuff, we did have some older ones. We will send you new ones with the My HR stuff link. If anybody else would like those, please let me know. We'll send those off as well. Jeff Teal, I got you. You should be able to talk. Think you're muted, Jeff?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, so the advances, if I have an advance, in the past it hadn't worked properly. Is that a setup thing for each one of the companies?
If you have an advance kind of thing?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of ways to do it. You could either do it when you're entering payroll. We can set that up in the time entry grid. You can also come to deductions. I'm not sure in this demo company if I have anything.
Oh.
We do have an advance. Let's choose a loan instead. We certainly can set up the advances for you, Jeff. I'll take a look at how I have them set up for you. Okay. But what you could see here, if you come to the deduction, I'm just going to use this loan as an example. You could say they owe you $100. You give them $100. I'm going to put a balance of $100. It will go in there and take that advance of $100. When the balance hits zero, it will go ahead and stop taking that. So that's the most common way to do that. And I will go check up on the setup in your companies to make sure that that is set up correctly.
Okay, thank you.
I'll shoot you an email.
Oh, one more question.
Yeah.
The W-4,
yeah.
There's a lot of people that said they want to claim one or they want to claim two.
Right.
Because that was the old system.
That's the old system. isolved is still set up to manage that. So if you look in the drop downs, like we said, is tax information, you can choose. So right now, this person is set up as married 8, right? So this would be married 2, single 1, right? So it is still set up to manage that. The new way is single or married filed jointly, which copies exactly what's written here. Yeah. That is
how does it determine how much to withhold?
So it's all the tax tables. And like I said, IRS has certainly tried to make it simpler. I don't know as they necessarily have done that. But it definitely, I would say it has been more confusing. This has been one of the more confusing things that's happened over the last couple of years is this change. The ability is for both ways to be managed. If they want to do it either way, the tax tables are still set up both ways. This single or married filing jointly or married filing jointly, in theory, most employees should be able to just choose single or married filing jointly or married filing jointly. And in theory, the tax tables are supposed to be set up so that they have the right amount of tax taken out. it's for 98% of employees, that's probably the case. There are certain employees that have different needs, and certainly we're happy to talk to them about that. I would encourage them to talk to their accountant about that as well, because most of those people know that they have different tax needs. It's an imperfect system, I'll admit to you. It's kind of what we've gotten, but definitely I know there's questions about this withholding certificate, this W-4. Like I said, 98% of employees, all you're going to need to do is check single, married, head of household. You do not really need to go beyond this step one.
Okay.
If you have multiple jobs, or if you want to claim dependents, you can read these instructions. There are also multiple worksheets on the end to fill out sections 3, 2, 3, 4. Again, it's very confusing if you're using steps 2, 3, 4. I would encourage employees to really read this, talk to their accountant if they have questions on how to do these withholdings. Again, 98% of employees, it's designed to literally do step 1, sign the bottom, move on.
Yeah, I just have a lot of people calling me and saying, I didn't have enough taxes taken out, but most of the time they don't have enough because most of their money was in tips.
Right. And so for you in the restaurant world, that may be definitely an opportunity to have extra withholding taken out. So they may say, I want an extra $10 or $20 taken out when I have the money in my check. That may be something to consider for them as well. They could. It
doesn't ever happen though, because their tips are paid out in cash. So now
right.
I tell them you're going to have to make estimated tax payments.
Right. And that's certainly, that's unfortunately, that's the server life. So,
yeah. Okay.
So that's that.
Thanks.
Marianne, I know you had a question about the W-4. I hope that answers that on the different types of management of the W-4. Certainly feel free to reach out if you have more questions on that. Jana, I know you had a question about timekeeping, punching in and out. We are doing a full training next month on timekeeping. I will reach out to you separately just because it's a little bit outside of where we're at today. We'll give you some information on the timekeeping for sure. But next month's training is all about timekeeping 101. So that will be a good one for anything interested. And Luke, you had a question on the videos. Are they updated? Yes, all the videos on the website, on our brand new website. These videos are all updated using my HR stuff. So you can see, everything is on that. So. Any other questions? Oh, okay, back to termination. If I terminate and remove direct deposit, will the system pay out correctly on the next payroll? So if you terminate, yes, you can still, if you put the termination date correctly, you can still pay them on the next payroll. If you remove the direct deposit, it will cut them a live check. So keep an eye out for that. If you come in here and you terminate, let's go to somebody. I like Hazel, she's my good test subject, so I'm not going to terminate her. Let's do Luke King. If you come in here and I go terminate here, if I put a future date, so say I know that we're terminating them on the 28th, my next payroll is until the 4th, for example, the system will allow you to terminate and pay them on the next payroll. If you deactivate their direct deposit accounts here, they will get a live check. So, so just keep that in mind when you're doing those terminations. I would say 9 times out of 10, we're not terminating an employee until after that last payroll, and we're putting the date back on the end. So great questions. Great questions. So another question, do we have the ability to edit the employees' drop-down boxes, things like departments, when they clock in, or is it just our access? So we like to configure all of your departments when you're clocking in and clocking out. So certainly reach out to us about that. Kelsey, I think we did fix everything for you. If there are still adjustments that need to be made, you can reach out to me or Michelle. I will follow up with her on those drop downs for punching. I think we did adjust those, but certainly we can take a look at those again if you need to. So, but yeah, things like departments. So if you're in organizations, we like to make sure we're configuring all the department names and numbers and things like that for you. You do not have the ability to do that, certainly because those get tied into multiple different things. Think different pay rates, workers' comp codes, those alternate pay rates, things get tied together in multiple ways. So we want to make sure that those are set up correctly. But I will definitely reach out to you, Kelsey, and find out if we've got those fixed for you. So really great questions today. Question about a system called On the Clock. I have not ever heard of that. We don't have a direct integration with On the Clock. That doesn't mean that we can't import time from that system. We can do imports of timekeeping from certain systems. Certainly something to reach out to us about, and we can certainly work with you on that. All right. I think that's all, looks like all the questions we have for right now. Certainly you're welcome to reach out to your payroll processor, reach out to me. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have with anything. Next month, I'll go to our little screen share here. Next month, we have Timekeeping 101. So February 15th, 2 o'clock, I'll be right back here. You can sign right up on papertrails.com/resources, learn all about timekeeping. If you're using it, that's a great resource. If you're not using it yet, it's a great overview to see what it might be able to do for you. And we will look forward to a lot more that time. So thank you everyone so much for joining us, and we will talk to you all very soon.